sister Emmy and I are on a mission to open our hearts and minds by attending different churches here in Utah. We're talking to the beautiful people that make their church a community. We hope you enjoyed this interview with the amazing Rabbi Sam Spector. If you haven't already listened to episode 7, which is part 1 of this interview, we encourage you to go back and listen to that in addition. Welcome to That's Church.
LGBTQ advocacy is actually one of the reasons I became a rabbi. I'm not part of that community myself, but I always try and think about how somebody's memory can be a blessing and how we can continue their legacy. My grandparents of blessed memory, they were very humble, modest people, and nobody of particular prominence, but they were very engaged in civil rights work, even though they were not Black. My grandmother would go to kindergartens in the 40s and 50s and do puppet shows for children about why segregation was wrong. And they met Martin Luther King and helped organize rallies for him in the Midwest. And so when I was about, 16, 17 years old, I was living in Washington State, and it was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And I thought about who in our society does not have equality, who should. And in Washington State at that time, it was legal to terminate somebody from their job for being part of the queer community or evict them from their apartment. So you could, and that's still the case in some parts of the United States. So like somebody can be your employee for 20 years and then you find out they're gay, you can fire them for that. That felt really wrong to me. And then the year before, there had been a bill in Washington State that had failed by one vote to change that. And so I went with my rabbi and some of the people in our community, and we went to the state capitol, Olympia, and talked to legislators about how we're Jewish people, and this is something that is important to us. And one legislator who we talked to said, well, wait a second. I voted against this last year because I'm Christian, and I thought you couldn't be a person of faith and support LGBT rights. And he said, but it didn't feel good for me to vote against this. And we said, well, we believe the Bible says everyone was made in God's image and likeness. And the most repeated commandment in the Torah is be kind to the stranger in your midst, because you were a stranger in the land of Egypt. And discrimination is something that is not a part of our faith. And he changed his vote, and it passed that year by one vote. And that was
my gosh,
really exciting. And so since then, especially in coming to Utah, I feel like we've been able to do a lot of really great things. Our synagogue was very instrumental in the hate crimes bill that eventually got passed here in Utah, that protects minorities, including those from the LGBTQ community and protected groups from hate crimes. In order to get married in Israel, you have to be married by the ultra-Orthodox rabbinate, but Israel will recognize any weddings done outside of the state of Israel. And so gay couples would have to leave Israel in order to get married and then come back to Israel, and then they'd get the benefits of being married. Well, discovered that in Utah County, you could get a marriage license online, and you could be standing anywhere in the world and get married, so long as your officiant is standing in the state of Utah and can see you over Zoom or something like this. And so we started letting people know about this, and I've now gone to officiate many, many weddings for people who either don't want to be married by the ultra-Orthodox rabbinate or can't be. And the Israeli government tried to make it so that, we will now recognize weddings done everywhere in the world except for the state of Utah. And we sued, and we were part of the plaintiffs.
Oh my gosh.
And we won the Supreme Court case in Israel about that. And so now same-sex couples in Israel can get married without having to leave their country through us. And finally, another example is we had a non-binary student who didn't want a B'nai mitzvah because they said that the prayer books don't reflect me. We said that's an issue, and we found an LGBTQ synagogue in San Francisco, Temple Shar Zahav, that had created their own prayer book that was LGBTQ inspired. And we ordered 300 copies of that prayer book so that this kid could have their B'nai mitzvah in a way that reflects them. And we are now, our synagogue here in Utah is the largest owner of that prayer book outside of that synagogue in San Francisco, anywhere in the world. And so we're very proud of what we do to be inclusive. And it's something that we're very vocal about, because I think that this is an area where we differ from the church leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but we still have a wonderful friendship with them and respect with them. And through that mutual respect, we're able to have deep conversations and difficult conversations. And at the same time, too, we're very vocal because there's a lot of people, I think, in Utah and elsewhere who have a misconception that if they are gay or part of the queer community, that God must hate them. And we are very vocal in our support of the LGBTQ community. And every time I go to BYU, I talk about it. Every time I go to a ward, I talk about it. And every time I talk to a high school, I talk about it, because I think to myself, maybe there's a queer teenager here who needs to hear this, and maybe I've saved that kid's life.
Yes,
absolutely.
It sounds like you've accomplished so much already.
Thank you.
And you're young, so I'm excited to see what else you do.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that is like, I got misty quite a few times just because I know so many people who your words will help, and they are, a lot of them are LDS, but it still means so much coming from someone in a position of leadership in a church. Like, it's just so important for those people to know, for anyone to know that they're loved and that they have a loving God looking over them.
Absolutely.
And I had the honor of officiating my brother's wedding to his husband, and it was one of the highlights of my life. So I'm sure you felt the same initiating some of those weddings, or officiating, excuse me. It is like, truly, you can feel the presence of heaven on earth when you do something like that. It was, an absolute
pretty
joy.
special. Getting to officiate weddings is a huge privilege for me. And what I've learned is, if I can help make a moment between two people who deeply love each other and see holiness in one another, a Jewish moment that connects with their heritage and their values, then that's a real privilege. So whether it's a man and a woman, or two men or two women, it's a very special experience.
I just so hope our church can catch up to those really to those sentiments, because I think a lot of people will appreciate it.
The church is making a lot of strides in the right direction. I'd say there's still ways to go. I mean, in the 1970s, up until the late 1970s, to put it nicely, I think the church's view on Black men being priesthood holders, so that was very problematic. And we've had 4,000 years to figure it out. Your church is 200 years old, and so we got a few years on you all, and we're still figuring it out and figuring out modern challenges. And I think that the church is going to continue to grow, and I'm very hopeful that we will one day see some progress on this. But it's wonderful, our relationship in other ways.
Thank you so much for saying that. Something I've noticed with these interviews with different leaders of different religions is that they are so respectful about our faith, and it's just so impressive to me.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for your faith and a tremendous amount of love for your faith. But, at the end of the day, there's going to be disagreements folks have. There's disagreements the church has with me and my faith, and that's okay. And having a diversity of opinions helps us enrich one another and grow together and build mutual respect. It wouldn't be very productive if we all hung out with folks who think the same way we do.
Oh my gosh,
Yes, that's
yes,
exactly why we're
absolutely.
doing this podcast.
Yes.
Because we want to build those bridges and unity.
I do think it's important to remember that in our faith, we have a lot of people who disagree with the church's stance on LGBTQ plus issues. And kind of like you were saying, how you have a mix of diversity in your congregation, we have a lot of that happening as well in the LDS church, which I love that you mentioned that diversity is actually something that can strengthen us all. So thank you for saying that.
There's a Jewish teaching that asks, how do you define a wise person? And the answer is the one who can learn from every person. And so hopefully people in the church who have concerns about LGBTQ advocacy and such, they're coming from a place of what they think will help sustain their church and the church and be in the best interest of the church and the people who are for LGBTQ advocacy and equal rights. Say, this is what will make our church stronger and reflect the loving nature of our church. And when you can remember that you're coming at two opposite approaches, but for the same goal, then that's when you can find some holiness there.
I just wanted to know, just briefly, have you felt like you have received extra support from people since the war began?
I mean, well, what's been tough is we've gotten a ton more love and we've also gotten a ton more hatred. But I mean, for every nasty phone call or letter or whatever we get 100 beautiful ones. We've had people who've even called in and made donations to our synagogue and said, these people are trying to make folks scared of your synagogue, or we to go to the synagogue, or you've had to, we're right now frontlining $500,000 for security upgrades to our building, and we spend about close to $1,000 a week on off-duty police officers. But also, we had a lovely Latter-day Saint gentleman and his wife come by the synagogue with 2 boxes of Cease chocolate candies, and he gave one to me and said, you've probably had a very difficult month. I want you to have this. And they said, and I want you to pick somebody in your community who's also had a very difficult month and give this to them. And, an email and said, hey, you got lunch waiting for you at Feldman's Deli, pick up and enjoy it. Know that people love you. And so it's been really nice.
Wow.
I said, it's been tough. I think I sometimes perseverate and focus more on the negative and the threats we've received. And at the same time, though, it's important for me to also remember the unbelievable outpouring of love and support that we've gotten. And that's been really touching.
My husband and I visited with a couple of our friends. The first time we visited your synagogue, and then Ashley and I visited the second time. And the first time we were so shocked to see in the pamphlet that we received the information about what to do if you're attacked or what to do if you're threatened, and where are the exits, and like a plan, an escape plan, basically. And we just thought that was really impactful for us. We were like, oh my gosh, they really have to worry about that so intensely, and it's a very real thing.
Yeah, we received a bomb threat during one of our services recently, and we executed, I think, perfectly an evacuation plan. And people are like, well, how are you so calm, so organized? I said, because we rehearsed it 1,000 times. Twice over the summer, I had Latter-day Saints come up to me and say, why are there police officers here? I said, well, because it's the Sabbath. And they're like, yeah, but why are there police officers here? Did you guys get threats? Like, oh, no, we have them every single time we have a worship service. We have to. That's the reality for being Jewish is in America. It's not just us. It's every synagogue I know has to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, did you get to go to Israel, or do you get to go? Are you still, you were planning to go soon?
Yeah, I'm leaving on Sunday. I'm going on Sunday. So, yeah.
The flight's not canceled.
Originally,
they're taking you there.
my first flight got canceled. El Al, Israel's national carrier, is still flying in and out. So I rebooked Delta to Paris, and then booked a flight from Paris to Tel Aviv. We're now going to be shifting our focus to volunteering, to doing pastoral care for bereaved families, to meeting with the families of hostages, and so on and so forth, and doing daily reports.
Wow.
is there a favorite quote or piece of wisdom that has guided you in your life?
You've already shared so much with us.
I mean,
Another.
There's so many.
I do think often about that a book called Pirkei Avot, that's a 2,000-year-old book on ethics asks, which is how do you define a wise person? One who can learn from every person. How do you define a rich person? One who's happy with what he has. How do you define an honorable person? One who shows honor to other people. How do you define a strong person? One who's able to overcome their temptations. And, there are times I have to ask myself, am I wise? Am I wealthy? Am I strong? Am I honorable? And sometimes the answer is, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. And other times I go, oh, I need to adjust this a bit. And just remembering that, again, everybody was made in God's image and likeness. The Torah says that God says, remember that you are holy, for I'm holy. And that every person has holiness in them. And we have to try and find that and see that.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
We talked recently with the Krishna leader, the founder of the Krishna temple. And when he was converted to his faith, the thing that converted him from the guru that he was working with was the knowledge that he was created in the image of God. And I think that's so huge for so many people, just to know that we are exactly in his image, and we believe he's our father, and we believe, that we are children of God, and that just, there's something powerful about that.
You were talking about the LGBTQ advocacy piece and asking about that. The full quote is male and female in the image of God. God created them, male and female. God created them. And so, from first chapter of the Torah, the Bible, it almost sounds like God uses they them pronouns. So I
love that.
Maybe God has so maybe all those folks in the LGBTQ community, they were made queer in God's image as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, amen. That's church.
Yep,
that's synagogue.
Synagogue. So
That's
I'm
wonderful.
so mad at myself because I know synagogue. Every time I mention you to anyone, I'm like, so we went to the synagogue.
Don't even
I don't
worry.
know why I said church. What?
It happens a lot, so I don't mind at all.
But this next question, this is my favorite question, because this is kind of the question that I asked a couple of people that led me to wanting to do this podcast. But we're just curious what your relationship is, or your belief in God. You've kind of shared a little bit of what that looks like to you, but maybe not so as much the relationship. Or do you believe you have a relationship with God?
Yeah. I always preface this question with the caveat saying my relationship with God is different than it was 5 years ago, and it's different than it will be 5 years from now. That's a constantly evolving relationship. That is a relationship that, just like I think any relationship, your relationship with your kids, your parents, your spouse, has high points and low points, and beautiful moments and difficult moments. You were talking, Emily, about how that individual that you saw outside without the coat. For me, if we just look at biology, there's no reason I should help somebody like that. That humankind is not on the verge of extinction. If anything, we're overpopulated, and that person, especially as a man, is a competitor of mine for resources, housing, job, food, offspring, and biologically it benefits me if he dies. Now, but I don't want that to happen, because I feel a connection to him. I feel empathy for him. I feel something holy within him. And he's not just another person. He's somebody's child. He's somebody's brother. He's a person with a soul and thoughts and feelings, and the ability to be able to see that and to connect to that. That's God for me. And I can't pray to God that somebody gets healed or from a disease and it will magically happen. That's otherwise people will stay alive forever. Or it's like, well, why did God cure that person but not that person? But I think through God we can pray for strength, hope, and that God can help us realize the world as it is versus the world that it should be, and we can be partners with God then in the ongoing process of creation. And we say in Judaism that our job is to pray as if everything depends on God, but to act as though everything depends on you. And so that's, I don't know, when people tell me, again, the relationship with God piece is very personal because everybody is going to have a different relationship with God, experience God differently. And for folks who say, oh, I don't believe in God, I always ask them the same question. Tell me about the God you don't believe in. Well, I don't believe in a white dude in the sky who judges us. And cool, I don't either. That's not the God I believe in. Tell me what you do believe in. Oh, I believe in the interconnectedness of human beings. Well, so do I. I happen to call that God. And so just seeing that we relate to God differently and not prescribing to people what that relationship should be, but rather having them figure that relationship for themselves.
That is an amazing answer.
Interesting.
Well done.
Yeah. Well
done.
done.
I love that. I think of that quote again. I know I already referenced this quote in one of our previous episodes, but the quote from Les Mis, to love another person is to see the face of God. Our next question is, what are your beliefs regarding pre-Earth and post-Earth life? Just a simple, quick question. Nice and easy question, right?
Well, so we don't really have a concept of pre-Earth life as Latter-day Saints do and Muslims do. That's not a part of our theology, or at least not mine. And by the way, everything I'm saying today is purely my own opinion, my own interpretation, and is a Jewish view, not the Jewish view. And when it comes to post-earthly life, it's not something we talk about in great detail. There are Jews who believe in the concept of heaven. There are Jews who believe in reincarnation. There are Jews who believe in resurrection. There are Jews that believe you die and that's it. What I'll say is there is nothing within Judaism that says that you have to be Jewish to get any of the benefits of afterlife. Even though we all believe in a universal religion and we believe in a particularistic one, in general, most faiths believe in a particularistic God, one that gives you perks and benefits for being a part of their faith. For us, we believe in a universal God, one that gives everybody the same benefits regardless of what their faith is and if they're a good person or not. So I don't really know what afterlife looks like. I have no clue. I believe that whatever problems we experience in this world aren't in whatever awaits us. And I don't really think about it much because it doesn't benefit me to think about it. What we focus on a lot is this life and doing everything we can to preserve life. And when we cheers, we say l'chaim, to life. There's a huge emphasis on this life in Judaism. And so what my view is that I have one life and I'm going to live it to the best of my abilities and try and be the best person I can be and make the world a better place. And if there is such a thing as heaven, if I was a good person, then I should get to go there. And if there's not, if I die and that's it, well, that's okay. I made the most of this life and I made the world a better place. And that's my reward. And maybe afterlife is not what happens to me after I die. Maybe it's what life is like after I'm dead for those who are still here. And I can continue to live on through my students and others. Just as I talked about my grandparents, hopefully I will live on in people's memories as a blessing.
Wow, that is incredible. I got chills from that. Just the generational, passed down to the next generation. We focus
Love
a lot on
that.
generations and our religion, and we focus a lot on the afterlife too. And I think sometimes if we focus too much on what's to come after, we miss out on what's happening right in front of us. At the end of the day, nobody really knows what's going to happen at the end. We can all have faith and believe in what we want to, but nobody really knows. So why not make the best of what we can in this moment right now?
Yeah, I agree.
I really relate to that, like trying to make this moment the very best that it can be. Our mom always said, what was it, Ash?
Live each day to the fullest.
Live each day to the fullest. That's all.
No, absolutely. I hope I have a very long life, but if I'm going to a war zone in a few days. If I die and that's it, hopefully, I get to accomplish everything I want to, did I find holiness in each day and consider each day a blessing and make the most of it?
And I love that you're so hyper focused on making the world a better place. I think that's so commendable, and that it's definitely part of my thinking and just my being is always wanting to see what the next thing is that I could do to make the world a better place. And I'm not always accomplishing that, and I don't think we're intended to always be accomplishing that, but that's kind of in our mind somewhere.
Jewish teaching is that it's not on us to finish the work, but we're not allowed to not participate in it.
Ooh, all these quotes, all these really awesome. I'm like, I want to go write down all of these quotes. That's why we're doing this, is to learn from people. We've definitely learned a lot today.
Yeah, we're learning right along with our listeners. So
yeah. Our last question is kind of a fun one, or it's intended to be. And we're just wondering, what is your that's church moment outside of the walls of your synagogue? And it can be like, in nature, or it can be spending time with your kids, or
okay.
I mean, anything that kind of rejuvenates your soul or helps you to find solace.
Definitely spending time with my daughters is amazing and wonderful. That brings me so much joy. Same with my dogs. Not to compare my daughters to my dogs, but they both. With both of them, you can have a day where you are feeling like king of the world, and you come home and they will knock you back down to where you need to be. They'll be like, I just threw up on the floor, go clean that up. Or you will have a day where you are feeling really down about yourself, and they come in and greet you and treat you amazingly. There's a Jewish teaching of a guy who walked around with a note in each of his pockets, and one said, the whole world is created for me, and the other said, I am but dust and ashes. And so they balance you out. Also, I tell people my other religion is baseball. I love baseball. Baseball also, everything can change in a single moment. If you are a person of faith, baseball is for you. It will be devastating. It will be exciting. And you've got to have faith on every single pitch. And finally, I'm very privileged. I've been to over 60 countries in the world. I love exploring the world and experiencing other cultures and gaining wisdom from others. Those are the things I do to recharge myself. And even when I'm not traveling, I'm putting together itineraries for places I've never been and might never go, and researching them, and brings me a lot of joy.
Where was your favorite place you traveled to? Because I have to know out of all of those places.
Yeah,
it's tough. Contractually, I'm obligated to say Israel, but if we take Israel out of the equation, I loved Cuba a lot. I loved the country of Laos. Portugal was a wonderful place. I love Turkey and Egypt. I've been so many places, and it's hard to pick a favorite. Albania and Bosnia were surprises to me, and places I loved. And that's been part of the fun, is sometimes the places I was most expecting to love haven't been my favorite places, and other places that were not on my radar or I absolutely fell in love with. I was doing a backpacking trip around the Balkans, and I had to go through Albania to get to the next country I wanted to. And so I stopped for a few days in Albania, being like, well, what's there in Albania? One of the most beautiful, wonderful, incredible historical places I've ever been. Fell in love with it. So yeah, you find holiness in places you don't always expect.
And do you travel with your kid, with your family, your wife?
Yeah,
Or
often I do. My wife and I have been to over 20 countries together. My daughter Miriam, my 2-year-old, she's been to about 12 countries now. It's fun. It's even though they're babies, it's, you do it differently, but it's still fun, and you create memories. And even if they won't remember them, I'll
That's
remember
amazing.
them.
Wow. I think traveling is one of the quickest ways to open your mind up to different religions and ways of living in general. I think it's so helpful. I wish everyone had the means to do it, because I think it could help heal the world in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely. And even if you aren't, I'm not a wealthy person, but people are like, wow, you go all these places. I do it on a shoestring budget, and with a backpack, stay in hostels, whatever, or couch surfing. It doesn't have to be luxurious. And by the way, how I ended up in Utah was I did an unexpected trip with my dad here to the national parks, and I was like, wow, these are the nicest people, and this is the most beautiful place. I'd love to live here someday. And then, lo and behold, a position became available, and travel brought me here. So there you go.
There you go. We love to travel as well. And people have asked us that same question. And I think it's more that we just make it a priority. We don't we're not millionaires either, but that is a priority for us. And I heard recently something about taking kids out of the country, because we haven't done that very much. I've taken my kids to Mexico once, and that's all that we've done out of the country. We do a lot of traveling as a family closer, in the States. But I heard something recently that said that if you take kids at a young age, they're still molded by those experiences. They're molded by the different cultures and the things that you're learning and that they're learning as well. So there's still value in it, even if they don't remember it. But I think it's worth it in the end, for sure.
Oh, for sure. And so maybe sometime we should do a That's Church podcast from the Holy Land or something. I'll take the videos there.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
I actually had a trip booked about 2 weeks before Israel, before this happened, and to Israel in the spring. We were taking my 92-year-old grandmother there, and she's been before, but she really wanted to see the BYU Center. She had never seen that.
It's gorgeous.
So
that's I went there with Elder Cook, and I had a wonderful time. It's funny, if you want the best view in Salt Lake City, go to the Jewish Community Center. Best view, hands down, in the whole city is at the Jewish Community Center. If you want the best view in Jerusalem, go to BYU Jerusalem. So I don't know how the Latter-day Saints got the best view in Jerusalem and we got the best view in Salt Lake City.
We'll just trade.
That's so interesting. Well, we're not going anymore because
hopefully
92-year-old grandmother.
Hopefully it'll be better by then. But I hope you do go sometime. It's a special place, and it's the one place where you can use a Bible as your guidebook. So whether you're
so
Christian,
cool.
Jewish, Muslim, it's a special place for you.
That is very cool. I just wanted to mention also, I talked to some friends. We had a meet and greet after the Restore conference. And I think that's a conference that you spoke at. And we were our podcast was brand new. We just put out our very first episode. And I was talking to some people there, and they said, oh my gosh, you have to interview the rabbi. They were so impressed with you, and they just kind of went on, and they're like, that really would be awesome. You never know. He might say yes. I was like, okay, I guess I have to.
If he doesn't, we'll show up at his synagogue.
Like multiple times and stare him down. And
we did hunt him down. We did. That's what you're not seeing.
But it was awesome. And we're so glad that we did, because this has been amazing. I've grown a lot. I've learned a lot. And I know Ashley has as well. And our listeners too. So I'm so glad that we did this. And they were so impressed. I just wanted to mention that you blessed the congregation. They thought that was so cool that it was right at the time the war was beginning. And they were so touched that you gave this beautiful blessing or prayer over us and our congregation for our church. That was just really impressive to them and really impactful for them. So, so know that it did something for sure. You made a difference.
My friendships with the church, people, members of the church, have been truly one of the greatest privileges and blessings of my life. So I think that the church and its members have done more for me and my community than I could ever do in return. And so to be able to at least share 5 minutes of words and have some impact, that's special. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We feel completely honored. Can you just really quickly leave us your information on where people can come and visit you and maybe some upcoming events?
So everybody is welcome for our services on Friday nights at 6:30 and Saturday mornings at 9:30. Just so you know, we don't use phones and stuff during the service, just so I can prevent some angry old Jewish person from yelling at you. But everybody is welcome. We are right next to Tanner Park on 2425 Heritage Way. And you can also check us out online, and we live stream our services. You can follow our Congregation Kol Ami on Facebook, or my Facebook, Rabbi Sam Spector, and go to our website at www.conkolami.org. That's CONKOLAMI.org. With Hanukkah coming up, we are going to have a few things that will be open to everyone. December 10th, a concert. You can buy tickets on our website. That's going to be really special. And then Monday, December 11th, we'll be having at the Public Safety Building, Salt Lake City, menorah lighting with Mayor Mendenhall. And on Thursday, December 14th, we'll be having a menorah lighting at the Mill Creek Common with Mayor Jeff Silvestrini of Mill Creek, and also ice skating there. And all those things are open to the public, and we are just thrilled when we have people coming and supporting and celebrating with us.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank
I don't know
you.
do you do something? Sorry, we just got done with Krishna.
You got that namaste.
We're mixing our religions again.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on That's Church. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at That's Church Podcast for more updates, insights, and a glimpse into the diverse spiritual tapestry of Utah.
Let's keep the conversation going, because we believe that gaining knowledge of other religions does not diminish our own faith, but can instead enrich our spirituality.